Hey everybody, and welcome to r/Malicious Compliance. Before you start listening to these stories, please turn on your captions so you can follow along with me. Ban all mobile phones at school for years 5 through 9? Sure, just expect us to find a way around this. So 3 years ago, when I was in year 9, my school banned mobile phones for every student from year 5 to year 9. This meant that the students in year 10 through 12 were still allowed to use them. The exact wording was, mobile phones are prohibited for years 5 through 9 during school hours on school grounds. My class was a bit pissed off by this. We didn't really understand why they did it. The school's reasoning was that the students didn't play with each other enough, because we didn't really use our phones that much in the first place. Also, they made this rule in the middle of the year, so we felt that it was just unnecessary that we couldn't use our phones for just half a year. We weren't the only ones to be unhappy. Usually, a rule like this had to be discussed by the student council, the teacher council, and the parent council. Not sure if those are the right words, I'm translating from German. And then had to be discussed by the school assembly, where people from all three councils were present. This rule, however, had been made by the principal and vice principal without asking anyone. They were also really strict with that rule. Everyone who was seen with a phone was supposed to get detention. After the long introductions, let's start with the story. Our class was really petty, so we immediately knew we wanted to do something about this. Also, in our school, the different years were really close-knit. Everyone had connections to everyone, especially in cases like this. So we knew that if we did something, the younger students would follow our example. First, we did the obvious thing. We didn't take out our phones during school hours. Oh, you want us to do a class project where we have to do research? No problem. We have to go to the computer room. We don't have any phones with us. Our school had 3 computer rooms for approximately 1,000 students, so you can imagine that didn't work very well. That also meant that every time someone had to call their parents, they had to go to the secretary who had 2 phones. On normal school days, this wasn't as big of a problem, but on days where school ended early because of the head or strong wind, that meant that every single student from year 5 through 9 had to use these phones. Our school had the rule that year 5 through 9 aren't allowed to leave the school ground unless they have their parents' permission. On days like that, the secretary barely got any work done since she needed to use the phone as well. After that, we started to get creative. The rule said, on school grounds, right? Our school had stairs running down from the school ground to a street. The first step belonged to the school, the second didn't anymore. Usually these steps were used by all the smoking students since there was a rule prohibiting smoking on school grounds, but suddenly the first step was full of students using their phones. We sat on the first step, our arms stretched out so we were over the second step. Our teachers were amused by this. They hadn't seen the need for the rule either, but our principal and vice principal weren't happy. Once the younger students started to use this trick as well, we moved on. The rule said for years 5 through 9, right? Year 9 and year 10 were really close. There were a lot of friends groups between them, so we hung out with them, using our phones, and every time a teacher came near, we gave all our phones to the older students. That meant that sometimes one student could have 6 to 10 phones with them. But the rule said nothing against that. Again, our teachers knew what we were doing and let us do our thing, but the principal and vice principal were pissed. But they couldn't really do anything. Not all of the younger students were able to follow our example with this because they simply didn't have that many friends with students in year 10 and up. So we came up with the third plan. The rule explicitly said mobile phones. This one was almost the easiest. We brought almost every device that wasn't a mobile phone that we could find. We started with MP3 players, tablets, and those really fancy calculators you can play games on. After that, we brought our Nintendos. Everyone in our class had one. We played on them every break, and once the other students had seen us doing that, they started doing that as well. Because we almost always played Mario Kart, and you could only play with 8 players in one round. Everyone just played with the people that stood closest to them, regardless of age, gender, or if they even knew each other. We really made a lot of friends this way. Because of this, almost all the students at our school played on their consoles. So the rule made happen what it was supposed to prevent. Our principal and vice principal were really angry at this point, but they couldn't do anything. They suspected that our class had come up with all those things, but they couldn't prove anything. They couldn't punish us either. A lot of times, they tried to take away our consoles, but our parents would always tell them that the rule didn't say anything against them. When they tried to change the rule, the school assembly argued that they weren't asked when the rule was established in the first place, but they would make a lot of trouble if it was changed without their input. Unsurprisingly, they didn't agree to a change. Meanwhile, the school year had ended. In the new year, our class was allowed to use their phones, so we stopped our pettiness. But it had already been started, so the younger students just continued. Pretty soon after that, the rule was changed. It now said, mobile phones are prohibited during lessons, and the students went back to normal. Obviously, the friendships that started because of this didn't end though. Sorry, you've got to reorder that at a higher price now. So I work as a supervisor in a call center for appliance delivery, and malicious compliance can happen quite often here, especially with how upset some of the consumers can get. Sure, some of them have the right to be upset with the situation, but a lot of times it's not justified. As a supervisor, I'm the last stop for the consumer, and many of them don't like that. I do also take calls that are not escalated, but not as often. Now, onto the story. This happened on a day where we were slower than usual, not getting very many calls. I end up getting a pretty nasty supervisor call. The consumer was expecting a delivery to take place, but one of the delivery team members on her route had gotten injured, so they had to reschedule the rest of their deliveries. Mind you, she was not the only one affected by this. The team was around halfway through the route when this happened. The agency was able to move all those deliveries for the next day, which almost never happens. Conversation was as follows. AL will be angry lady. Previous agent introducing me to AL as the supervisor. Me. Hello. Like my agent said, my name is Zachafinackus, and I am a supervisor here at Redacted Delivery Support. And he has given me your information and let me know what the situation was. Seems you were expecting a delivery today, but it's been rescheduled to tomorrow due to driver injury, correct? AL. Yes, that is correct. I don't understand why my appliances can't be delivered today. Me. Ma'am. Oh, it's a ma'am. My bad. They can't be delivered today due to an injury that one of my delivery team has sustained. There are only 2 people to a delivery truck, so if one is injured, the other cannot keep doing deliveries. It would be hard and unsafe for one man to bring in and install the appliances himself, especially since most appliances weigh multiple hundreds of pounds. AL. Well, that's just ridiculous. They should be able to bring out another team to complete this delivery. Nailed it. Me. I apologize, but that is not possible. The agency runs their teams every day, so by the time the teams finish their routes, it's already 7 p.m. or later. Once a team finishes their route, my agency, their route, I don't know why I keep saying route, agency will not force them to go back out. I know you were frustrated with the situation, and my agency understands that as well, so they have moved your date, as well as the other people who were affected by the situation, to tomorrow. AL. That's just not acceptable. I want someone out here today, or I want to cancel my order. Me. Like I said previously, ma'am, it's not possible for anyone to complete your delivery today. If you do wish to cancel your order though, I can definitely do so. AL. Yes, that's what I want. Seeing as you're incompetent, I'll go somewhere else to order this delivery. Me. Okay, ma'am. One moment while I place you on a brief hold. Now here's the kicker. This person ordered an entire suite of appliances. Fridge, range, microwave, I don't know what a range is, microwave, dishwasher, washer, dryer, for those who don't know. She also ordered it on Black Friday, getting them for absolutely dirt cheap as far as appliances go. No store will honor that kind of pricing, especially not 2 months after the initial order, as a suite on Black Friday can go for $2,000 to $3,000, when normally they cost $4,000 to $5,000 with the color she wanted. So, per the consumer's request, I canceled the order. Once it is canceled in our system, there is almost no way to reverse said cancellation. We can only reverse it if it was done accidentally, and only if it's within a few minutes of the cancellation request. Also, if they want to reorder after something is canceled, they have to go back to their point of purchase and pay whatever the current price is. Most stores will not honor the Black Friday pricing unless it's an extreme circumstance. Me, back from hold. Okay, ma'am, I appreciate your patience. I've canceled the order in my system and emailed my agency to make sure you're taken off the route. Now, this cancellation is finalized, but it takes a few days for the money to be returned to your point of purchase. I advise to contact them in 2 to 3 days to get your money back. AL. I'm not happy with waiting, but fine. Me. Thank you for calling, redacted, delivery support, and have a good day. AL. F you. Checked up on the order a few days later, saw that an employee from her point of purchase tried to call back to reverse the cancellation, at which point my agent told him it was not possible, and that the consumer had to reorder. Checked in a couple days after that, saw a second order in my system for the same consumer with the same appliances. Hope she learned her lesson. I hope the body shop can handle the extra work. Many years ago, I was working at a car dealership in a place that gets a lot of snow. I ran the detail shop, and it was my responsibility to make sure the snow on the sidewalks was cleared as soon as possible so as to avoid liability and allow customers to come and go. The service shop had a habit of parking cars on the street while they were waiting to get them into the shop, which would normally be fine, but it prevented me from moving the snow. One day, we got a lot of snow, and the owner was on my case about getting it moved ASAP. I got the snowblower out, but the streets were lined with the cars, so I asked the service guys to move them for a few minutes to allow me to blow the snow off the sidewalks. The service manager, let's call him Dave, was a bit of a prima donna and didn't want his guys to waste their time moving cars when they could be turning wrenches, so he refused. Fine, Dave. I'll move them myself. Although it's going to needlessly delay me from doing this thing that the owner wants done right now. So I started moving the cars one at a time, but as soon as I'd move a car, the service guys would see an empty spot and move another one in its place. There was one of me and about 6 of them, so there was simply no way for me to move the cars long enough to clear the sidewalks. Meanwhile, the owner saw that the sidewalks still weren't clear and went off on me. I told him that Dave wouldn't move the cars, and his guys kept putting them back when I moved them, so I couldn't move the snow since Dave was actively preventing me. All I needed was for him to tell Dave to stop preventing me from doing my job and it would get done. Nope. Rich kid who inherited the family business wasn't going to get involved. Just get it done. Here's where the MC comes in. I just started blowing the snow from the sidewalks right into the cars waiting to go into the service garage. If you've ever been right next to a snowblower blasting you at point blank range, you'll know what I'm talking about. That went on for about 30 seconds before Dave realized that I was doing what I was doing and had a huge hissy fit. I looked him right in the eyes and told him to calm down, which of course infuriated him, which was my intent of course. And he called the general manager and the owner to complain about me. When they tried to give me a hard time, I reminded them yet again that the owner said that moving the snow was the top priority and that Dave's insistence on parking cars on the street and preventing me from moving them meant that I either had to blow the snow onto the cars or ignore doing what the owner had been on my butt about all morning. I assume they didn't want me to be on the hook for thousands of dollars of repainting and bodywork from having the waiting cars snow blasted, and they finally admitted that Dave was the problem. I also might have used the phrase "Dave is a petulant child" somewhere in there. Anyway, they told Dave to stop interfering with my snow removal. A few months later, I quit that job to go to grad school. 10 out of 10 would quit again. Just keep playing with a broken finger? Sure, miss. During my time at secondary school, ages 11 to 16 for all you Americans, PE was compulsory. I didn't mind it as I loved to play netball. That was until I got swapped into the higher ability group with Mrs. M. Mrs. M loved netball. And the netball team, you were either netball team or nothing to her. Wow. During a game, me and one of the netball team both jumped for the ball, collided, and fell. I had blood gushing out of my knee, but who did Mrs. M go to? Obviously the netball player. After a few minutes of the player sobbing that she probably broke my wrist, Mrs. M hauls her off to go get help, leaving me alone on the floor without a word. One good old trip to the nurse later, who lovingly just gives me a plaster for a bleeding, muddy gash on my knee, I'm left with a permanent scar on my knee and was darned lucky it wasn't infected, seeing that it was 5 hours until I was home to clean it with antiseptic. My mother was mad, but didn't have much evidence of foul play. Months pass, netball once more. A ball is thrown to me and I go to catch it, but it hits the tip of my finger hard. My pinky finger suddenly hurt so hard that I screamed. In my life, I've had 6 broken bones, ripped both Achilles, sliced my head open, cracked my head open, dislocated my elbow, and been hit by cars on 3 different occasions. But that finger break was the most painful thing I've ever experienced. My finger was obviously broken from just under the top knuckle and was pointing effing sideways from there, very quickly turning blue. So what glorious advice did Mrs. M give? Mrs. M: "It's nothing. Keep on playing." Me: "But Mrs. M, the game has only just started. Get back in there." "You want me to keep playing?" "Sure." For 45 minutes, I kept playing one-handed, ignoring the netball team chastising me for not playing properly. At the end of the lesson, I packed my stuff without changing, text my mother, and go to find Mrs. M. When I tell her I'm going home and show her and my other PE teacher the break, she has the audacity to say, "Yeah, breaks happen all the time in this game." Do they now? So why did you make me keep playing? Huh? Time for some revenge. My mother has spent years as a team leader in different companies. Her entire job is to not take anything from anyone, and at this point in her life, she was in an awful job that put her under a lot of stress. At the hospital, she had to watch as her young daughter got her finger snapped back into place, which was pretty awful as it took multiple attempts, plus the fact that we didn't know at the time that local anesthetic and laughing gas anesthetic did not work on me. Essentially, hours of me screaming in pain, mother instincts engaged. The next day, she stormed into that school, ever so calmly dragged my head teacher into a meeting and dragged both her and my PE teacher through the dirt until I got a face-to-face apology. Quietly, the teacher started getting reduced hours. Our other PE teacher took over the netball team. Another took over as head of PE until one day we just never saw her again. Apparently, multiple accounts of child endangerment with many witnesses screw up a teaching career. Whoops. Hey guys, thanks a lot for listening to these stories with me. I'm really trying to get in the mojo of kind of doing these videos, so I appreciate you guys being patient with me while I learn to do these narrations. If you did like this video, please leave a like at the bottom, leave a comment if you want to tell me how I'm doing, and subscribe to the channel for more daily Reddit content. Thanks.